Hello everyone, Travel Tour once again bringing you some very different content this time. What are we looking at? Is it some war-torn place in the Middle East? Is it Syria? Is it Iraq? Is it IS setting fire on people's home, killing people? Or is that Afghanistan, land of civil war, improvised explosive device, indiscriminate killing and suffering? What is that place? Alright, this happens to be part of Myanmar, which is situated very much in a normal area, not really famous for insurgency, war or civil war. It's very close to Thailand, actually sharing a border with Thailand, where we go for vacations and having some good time. It's very near to China, which is the growth engine of this current world, and very near to India, the biggest democracy and second biggest population on earth. It is also neighboring Bangladesh, a very rapidly growing economy in recent years. So what's happening there that catches our attention and compels us to make a video which we normally don't cover, the issue that doesn't really come into our scope. We are basically a travel and lifestyle channel. So we have been experiencing quite some unrest in the Rakhine state of Myanmar, and since 2017 this has escalated a lot. So as you see, we call it humanity in flames. The picture speaks itself. Actually, not much description is needed about what's going on in that God-forsaken land. So if I try to cover a bit about history of Rohingya people in Myanmar, then I have to say Rohingya is the name of a community living in the independent state of Rakhine since as early as 1413 AD. Majority of this community embraced Islam with rest of the neighboring Indian subcontinent. The country was conquered by the Burmese Empire in 1784. The now enlarged Burmese Empire was conquered again by Britain in 1824, which included Arakan naturally. But then again Burma wins freedom. During World War II, Britain promised independence of Burma and Arakan in exchange of support against Japanese aggression. Some prominent personalities from Rohingya community also played very vital role in shaping up the upcoming independent state of Burma. In 1948, Burma gains independence, but Arakanese didn't get their promised land. The former independent state of Arakan is thus annexed with the new independent Federal Union of Myanmar, rather Federal Union of Burma. But since inception of this new independent country, this population, the Rohingya people from Arakan, were subjected to betrayals. From 1962, Burma became an authoritarian state with military leaders at the helm of state affairs. Systematic persecution begins against particularly Muslim inhabitants of Rakhine, formerly called Arakan. So they also changed the name of the province. Deceptive military operations like Operation King Dragon or Operation Clean and Beautiful Nation was launched in association with Burmese civilians to change the demography in Rakhine. In 1982, citizenship law, a list of 135 ethnic groups were recognized as citizens, with the Rohingya entirely excluded. What impact they had of these new circumstances? That includes but not limited to no civil rights. They were subjected to discrimination in every way. They lost the right of property, they lost the access to government services, lost the freedom of movement. Aung San Suu Kyi lost hope, the lost cause. Aung San Suu Kyi was known as a legend in the history of struggle for democracy. Awarded 1991 Nobel Peace Prize, she soon became a symbol of freedom and liberty. I mean, she spent about 15 years in confinement in protest of the autocracy that prevailed in Myanmar at that time. With her victory in the 2015 election, the hope was everywhere for a lasting and humane solution to this problem. Unfortunately, the greatest persecution of all time took place with her in the office. What is more, she repeatedly refused to accept the truth, which by now everyone else is sure about. Now I have to shed some lights on the chronology of Exodus. These people experienced Exodus in more than once. Since the 1970s, Rohingya refugees have been coming to Bangladesh from Myanmar. In the 1990s, more than 250,000 resided in refugee camps in Bangladesh. In the early 2000s, all but 20,000 of them were repatriated to Myanmar. Now the latest persecution, the latest Exodus. Dateline 25 August 2017, Rakhine State of Myanmar. An alleged attack on Myanmar government forces unleashes the latest horror. The Myanmar military has been engaged in a campaign to rid the country of all Muslims in the guise of national security. More than 700,000 Rohingya have fled, what the United Nations is calling a textbook example of ethnic cleansing. You can have a look at the map where the red spots indicate the villages that are destroyed and the grey ones are still surviving. Just by looking at it, you can understand the magnitude of the persecution, of destruction, of torture that took place in this state of Myanmar. And that's a satellite image that shows the burned down Rohingya villages. You can see the color that indicates fire and burnt villages, ashes and stuff like that. So brutality prevails. Humanity in exile. 354 Rohingya villages inside Myanmar have been burned to the ground or particularly destroyed by military forces, leaving less than 50% intact. Surviving Rohingya describe house-to-house killings, and Amnesty International reported that the Myanmar military also raped Rohingya women and girls as part of their ethnic cleansing. They are being persecuted for no other reason than the fact that they are Muslim. This map shows the Bangladesh-Myanmar border, adjacent to which the Rohingya refugee camps are set up. Places are like Kutupalong, Jamtoli, Hakimpara, Baghona, Unchiprang, Chakmarkul, Shamlapur, Nayapara, Jadimura, so on and so forth. But the biggest one is Kutupalong, which according to these statistics is housing more than 600,000 Rohingya alone. Meanwhile in Bangladesh, the massive numbers of refugees who fled to Bangladesh in 2017 joined hundreds of thousands of Rohingya who had fled Myanmar in previous years. Kutupalong, like I said, is the biggest refugee settlement in the world according to UNHCR, that is United Nations High Commission for Refugees, is home to more than 600,000 refugees alone. But in March 2019, Bangladesh announced it would no longer accept Rohingya fleeing Myanmar. While an agreement for the return of refugees was reached in early 2018, none returned. They said they would not consider going back to Myanmar unless they were given guarantees they would be given citizenship. What has the international response been? A report published by UN investigators in August 2018 accused Myanmar's military of carrying out mass killings and rapes with genocidal intent. International Court of Justice. Alright, when we're talking about that, this is fresh on the headline. International Court of Justice has given an interim verdict on the measures to be taken till the final verdict could be announced. And the ICJ case lodged by the small Muslim majority nation of the Gambia in West Africa on behalf of dozens of other Muslim countries called for emergency measures against the Myanmar military known as Tatmadaw until a fuller investigation could be launched. Aung San Suu Kyi, the country's leader, rejected allegations of genocide when she appeared at the court in December. So we have the ICJ decision on interim measures today, and that's the main thing I want to share with you people. But shortly before this announcement is scheduled to take place, Myanmar, which has long denied carrying out genocide and say it is carrying out its own investigation into the events of 2017, the country's Independent Commission of Inquiry admitted that members of the security forces may have carried out war crimes, serious human rights violations, and violations of domestic law, but claimed there was no evidence of genocide. Its full report has not yet been released, but questions are there. However, the court indicates the following provisional measures unanimously. The Republic of the Union of Myanmar shall, in accordance with its obligation under the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide in relation to the members of the Rohingya group in its territory, take all measures within its power to prevent the commission of all acts within the scope of Article 2 of this convention. In particular, killing members of the group, causing serious bodily or mental harm to the members of the group, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part, and imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group. 2. The Republic of the Union of Myanmar shall, in relation to the members of the Rohingya group in its territory, ensure that its military as well as any irregular armed units which may be directed or supported by it and any organizations and persons which may be subject to its control, direction or influence do not commit any acts described in point 1 or of conspiracy to commit genocide, of direct and public incitement to commit genocide, of attempt to commit genocide, or of complicity in genocide. 3. Court also unanimously agreed that the Republic of the Union of Myanmar shall take effective measures to prevent the destruction and ensure the preservation of evidence related to allegations of acts within the scope of Article 2 of the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. 4. The Republic of the Union of Myanmar shall submit a report to the court on all measures taken to give effect to this order within 4 months, as from the date of this order, and thereafter every 6 months until a final decision on the case is rendered by the court. So that was the latest update about the crisis and the court proceeding, that is International Court of Justice, that's situated in The Hague, Netherlands. So thanks for staying with us. We'll come with fresh updates when it's available. So take care and bye-bye.